Hello, happiest of days to each of you folks. I hope you guys are having an absolutely incredibly awesome day, one of the best in your life. And if not, they'll at least be top 10 or will improve by the end of the day for you folks. So today is something I dedicate to the forgotten serial telling genres and that sort of thing too. I call it Serial Saturday, where we talk about old school serials, movie serials like Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers or Tarzan or Zora that we recently went in and did a couple of those things too. All that stuff too, as well as the first 2 seasons of Doctor Who and the TV serials from the 60s. Alrighty, so last week I did the first Dick Tracy from 1937. It was a great stuff, great action, great cast, great stuff too. It did make some changes from the comic strip, but they were all approved by the person who wrote the comic strip and that sort of thing too. That was 37. Gave it a 9 out of 10. So this week is Dick Tracy Returns. So next year, one of the staff will return. And this is a Republic serial. Previous one is also 15 minutes long. About 15 minutes long. 15 chapters long, which is a little longer. It's shorter in length by time. It's just 254 minutes. So this also stars Ralph Byrd. It's Dick Tracy. None of the other staff will return. It also stars Lynn Roberts as Gwen Andrews. It also stars Charles Middleton as Paula Stark. And yes, that's the Charles Middleton who started as Ming the Merciless and Flash Gordon up on a map in Mitchell. And sort of thing too. He's also the big bad here too. He does a great job and that sort of thing here. I think great stuff, nails it out of the park. But Paula Stark is definitely more of a lesser, right? I think he had more things to do with Flash Gordon's Ming the Merciless in terms of the script and that sort of thing too. But yes, that's that Paul Stark by Charles Middleton. Starring also Jerry Tucker as a Junior. In this case, Junior is not a comic relief character, although he still has comic relief, adult person, but with a little less than smarts, who oftentimes gets outwitted by the kids. But in this case, he's actually a kid, but he still has comic relief comics. That sort of thing too. Also stars and David Sharp here is as Agent Ron Merton in the first episode. So this is directed by 2 people. Those are William Whitney and John English for you folks. And then it was written by a bunch of people, many more than the previous one. Those are Franklin Adron, Ronald Davidson, Barry Shipman, Sol Shore, Rex Taylor, and Jared. And all based on Charles Chester Gould's comic strip. All right, so like I mentioned before, the head bad guy here is Paul Stark, and that sort of thing too. He starts off with a bunch of villainous bad guy criminals that are his sons. He has 5 sons. He's just been released from jail on bail, and now he's going to be doing some bad stuff. He does some selling out some stuff for non-American people. Remember, this is set in 1938 as the World War II was starting, but we're not in it yet, and that sort of thing too. So some criminal interests are heavily interested from outside America, that sort of thing too, in order to push stuff around, steal stuff, get involved with and that sort of thing too. Sometimes actually his ideas are very, very clever. All right, so here's some of my thoughts. First of all, there are many internal inconsistencies. I don't like it if I turn off my brain for something like this, but then it tells me that things that are happening or are important on the screen actually changes it later on. That sort of thing too. So there are many internal inconsistencies with this. For example, you're being caught in a box cavern, in a box canyon. And that this is a trap. And we're told by the bad guys that the reason that they're trapping Dick Tracy's and group of federal agents is because the box scene are going to ignite it up with TNT in order to keep them there for a month, getting everybody, all the agents, Dick Tracy, everybody who's there. And then it goes off and they just walk out. That sort of thing too. That's the sort of internal inconsistency that throws me a little bit, right? And that sort of thing too. Also, in one place they blow up a mine for a telescope, and that sort of a thing too, which has a lens that they were trying to steal, but they wouldn't let them, and they said, well, we'll blow it up instead. And then the mine underneath this this telescope gets blown up, and we see it fall, but nothing actually happens to the lens. And we know lenses for, especially like a 200-foot lens in this case, for a massively strong telescope, would be easily cracked by something like that. But nothing actually happens, nor do we find out later on what happens either. So those are some internal inconsistencies in this, right? Also, there are some bad serial cliffhangers too. For example, this has him walking from a car wreck that happens at the beginning of one episode. Don't like that. And that sort of a thing too. Then they also here too, they will spy on people's properties and homes and that sort of thing without a warrant. Remember, these people are federal agents. They do work for the FBI. These are not, private detectives. You don't have to actually take that stuff, right? And that sort of a thing too. But they're spying on their property, and that is illegal. And that sort of thing, just heads up, not a good look. Right. So then they have not one here, but two clip shows, episodes. It's not great. That's not a great look either. So I'm giving this a 6 out of 10 for you folks. You did well theaters, and there's 2 more, which will follow up. That sort of thing. But I think that this one, for those reasons, is a big letdown from the previous one. Alright, so have you watched this? If so, what did you think about it too, right? Remember, your opinion is just as valid as mine. It's particularly since I'm not a trained movie critic. I didn't go to film school. I don't make movies for a living, none of that stuff, right? So your opinion is just as valid, right, as mine is. So check it out. Also, like I mentioned before, one of the reasons I talk about this today is because this, like I mentioned before, how heavily great this stuff was, heavily influenced us, and that sort of thing too. But we've sort of forgotten it in our past, right, and that sort of thing too. So, for example, back then you would definitely be the water cooler talk. These sorts of cliffhangers and serials were sorts of the things that people had at the end before they left, both before intermission and the first half of a long ago day. Also, back then you wouldn't go to just one movie that you would pick. You would actually go to a day picture with a few films and that sort of thing too, with your friends, your family, your school, your church, your co-workers, all that sort of stuff too would all go together for this longer day with a few shorts and then the A picture, then maybe a short too, and then the serial heading to intermission, which would then bring you back for the second half, and you will be talking about that in the intermission, not the great first A picture that you just saw, and then the second half would also have you a couple of shorts, and then like sometimes commercials, and sometimes there were some trailers here and there, but it actually wasn't that common. Typically, it was a lot of money. Typically, you had some of these sorts were newsreels from the government or companies and that sort of thing too, as well as cartoons like Steamboat Will. And then the B picture, very quickly, sometimes B pictures were like maybe an hour, 75 minutes long or something like that. After that, you did have another couple of shorts, and then the last serial, and then you would end for the day. And that was the stuff you were talking about all week long, and that bring you back to the seats and that sort of thing too. So it's not, it helped to sell people's theater experience too. All that good stuff. All right. I also do on Wednesday, Video Game Wednesday, where I review older video games. I just did Fallout 4, and the next week will be Fallout 76, and that sort of thing too. So check that stuff out. If you're interested in those older video games, I also do some older Let's Plays. I just finished Evil Genius number 20, James Bond inspired base builder where you're the baddie. I just finished that today, so you can check out those Let's Plays too. Don't know what I'm going to do yet. I'm thinking about Evil Genius 2 for a while. And then I also on Monday I do older reviews of older things in the RPGs like Middle Earth Role Playing or Dungeons and Dragons, that sort of thing. Right now I'm doing series. All modules, I've probably done like 30 or 40 modules by now. And that sort of thing, like 8 by Gary Gygax, who co-funded it, and that sort of thing too. So check that out if you're interested. I'm going to finish out the UK series then. And then the other 3 days a week, I do reviews of older things that you read in this case, not just watch. But these are things in the 3 genres that we cover, older things typically in science fiction and fantasy and horror too, right? And there you go. So if those 7 older reviews plus Let's Plays too sound like your cup of tea, then great. Welcome to the channel and have a seat. I think you'll enjoy our time here quite a bit, right? And then while you're here, why not do all the YouTube stuff, like hit the subscribe button, the like button, the bell icon to be notified of those 7 videos plus Let's Plays 2 each week, and all that sort of stuff, and share, watch, like, all that stuff thing. But basically, share and watch, those are the key ways of growing this channel for you folks. Alrighty, so there you are. As you can tell from those 7 older things, and even the title of its name, The Worst Thing About New Books, that's a quote from French philosopher Jacques Joubert, who said that the worst thing about them was that they kept us from reading the old stuff, right? In this case, the old movies, but you get the idea. But in our passion for the new movies, the new video games, the new novels, sometimes have forgotten that these things are standing on the shoulders of giants, like I mentioned before, movie serials in this case. So check out those giants. I think you'll like it lots. Not that the new ones are bad, they're not, right? But check it out, dude. Alrighty, so if you made it all the way to the end here, I just want to thank you so very, very much for just taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my videos too, because we all have so many things, right, that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions too, right? So thanks again and have a great day.